It's time for the Bison Beat with KSJB Sports Director Kyle Dean and voice of the Bison, Jeff Culhane. Brought to you by First Class Aviation Maintenance and Flight School and FTC of Lisbon, North Dakota. Now, here's Kyle Dean and Jeff Culhane.
Hey, thank you very much. We are here broadcasting live in our studios in the Buffalo Mall in Jamestown, North Dakota. We're online at ksjbam.com. We're heading to the phone lines where we speak every Wednesday to voice of the Bison himself, Jeff Culhane. Hey, Jeff, how you doing today on your Wednesday?
Kyle, always great talking to you. How are you doing?
I am doing very well, and you know what? I am not complaining about this weather at all. I mean, this is perfect weather, 70 degrees in November.
Yeah, last Friday I was outside in a T-shirt and a pair of shorts, and I'm with you. I'll take it as long as we possibly can get it, but I think time is running out.
Oh, yes, I believe that, too. That time is running out. Well, this week on the Bison Beat, we have a lot to get to as we're wrapping up the regular season here in no time. First off, let's recap that game from last weekend. And honestly, a dominant effort by the NDSU Bison, wasn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty impressive, especially defensively and in the special teams category. Cam Peterson and Jackson Kuntz deserve a lot of credit for the way they kick the football. Kuntz continues to have, to me, he's been the best punter in the Missouri Valley because of not his length of kicks, but just because how he punts the football and he completely takes the opposition out of the punt return side of things. Coming in, Youngstown State, that's actually how they'd won games coming in this season. They had a 79-yard punt return for a score from Darian Townsend the week prior to beat Indiana State, and he led the entire country in punt return yardage per return. So Jackson Kuntz's play was key, and Cam Peterson, I thought, played very well. And then you look at the Bison once again. Inside the red zone, they've been just phenomenal this year. Youngstown State did move it a little bit inside the 20s, but once they got inside the 20-yard line and inside the 10-yard line, it was no-go for the Penguins.
And, King Frazier was out, or was out for this game, correct, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes, he was out with a rib injury.
Yes, and then Chase Morlock, he had a great game for filling in, didn't he?
He was very good. His first career 100-yard game. I feel like he really set the tone early on with that 71-yard touchdown run on third and less than a yard in the first quarter of play. That really got the Bison going in this football game in the first half. And, Youngstown State was a great rushing defense. They still are. They only allowed one touchdown rushing coming into the season, or coming into this game, rather, all year long, and the Bison got two. So North Dakota State beat them at their own game. They ran the football better than Youngstown State did. They stopped the run. They played Bison football, and Chase Morlock and Lance Dunn were a big part of that.
And, with this win, it helped the Bison to maintain their playoff push to get that home game. And let's take a look at some of the scores that happened in the Missouri Valley. And it's still anybody's conference yet, even though we're wrapping up the season here shortly, isn't it?
Well, it's South Dakota State and North Dakota State.
Yep.
Everyone else right now, for the most part, is on the outside looking in. The Jackrabbits and the Bison are tied atop the valley, each with one loss. Of course, South Dakota State has a tiebreaker with a head-to-head win over NDSU. And that's the way the conference looks right now as far as the scores are concerned and the standings go. But huge game this weekend in Macomb. Northern Iowa is at Western Illinois. UNI needs to win out to get into the playoffs, and Western, I think, needs one more win to get themselves into the playoffs, and maybe even two more wins, potentially. So that's a big game at Hanson Field. And Illinois State plays an interesting matchup at home versus Missouri State. It's their final regular season home game. If the Redbirds win that game, that means they're 6-5 with an FBS win and some quality wins over good teams in the Valley. Be interesting to see how the committee decides their fate in the postseason. And always a big game in the Valley when South Dakota State and South Dakota go head-to-head, USD and SDSU. That's on Saturday up in Brookings between those two teams, or rather down in Brookings from where we're at in Fargo. But that's a little bit of how the Valley looks, I would say, at this point right now. And it's a two-horse race, NDSU and SDSU for the conference championship.
And you just talked about the committee there a little bit. Can you explain that to some of our listeners? What exactly is that committee that's going on for this year?
I have no idea, Kyle. I really
Wow.
don't. I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't think they do either at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
The first rankings came out last Thursday, and they had North Dakota State at number 4 of 10. And, we had Brian Hutchinson, the head of the committee, on our show last Friday here in Fargo-Moorhead, and he didn't really have a whole lot for us. He didn't have a whole lot of insight as far as the criteria is concerned. I think the committee just got together over the phone, maybe via email, and didn't really go through a process where they would go and vet each team on their resume. So as of right now, we don't know what the criteria is from this committee. We're not sure. Brian Hutchinson did say yesterday in the Grand Forks Herald that after they saw the response from everybody and that people were paying attention, that they now will dive deeper into each team, which is just ridiculous. So that's what the committee is saying right now. We'll find out more tomorrow around 3 or 3:30.
Okay, and this is brand new, this committee thing. That I'm not mistaken on that, right?
Correct. It's a new deal. They're trying to be more transparent, but for whatever reason, with what they did last week, I applaud their efforts, but they weren't very transparent at all.
Okay, so how many more of these committee meetings, I guess, are they having? How many more of these playoff polls, I guess you would call them, are going to come out before?
They will have 2 more of these polls tomorrow and next Thursday before the final brackets announced on November 20th on Sunday of next week.
All right, so wow, some interesting stuff on that front. And hey, Jeff, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue the Bison Beat and talk about this upcoming matchup right here on KSJB and KSJBAM.com.
Did you ever look to the skies and dream of flying an airplane? Quit dreaming and contact First Class Aviation to schedule your discovery flight, where a first-class instructor will take you up in one of their airplanes. Call 952-1515, 952-1515. Aircraft maintenance is also available. Just call to schedule your aircraft. And they offer aircraft rental, too. Owners are NDSU Bison team makers at First Class Aviation, Flight School, and Aircraft Maintenance at Jamestown Airport. Go Bison!
Don't give up on your soybeans too early. Hi, I'm Darren Hefty with Hefty Seed Company. Far too often we see yield left on the table because either the growing season just wore people down or they simply were tired of spending more money. If a $5 investment turned into $10 to $40 in a month, would you do it? To find these opportunities, keep scouting your fields all the way until the soybeans start to turn yellow. There's a potential for a very nice crop. Don't leave yield on the table by giving up on your soybeans too early. Call 1-800-27-HEFTY for the answers to your agronomic questions.
They give to Morlock. Chase trying to get to the outside. Chase 5 dives. End zone. Touchdown. Chase Morlock. After the battle with Youngstown State, the Bison back at home for the final time in the 2016 regular season. Hi, this is Jeff Culhane. Join me and our entire network broadcast team on Saturday as North Dakota State does battle with the Sycamores of Indiana State. Pre-game coverage begins at 2 p.m. right here on the Peterson Farm Seed Bison Radio Network.
NDSU Bison football right here on AM 600 KSJB, online at KSJBAM.com. Hey, we're back at the Bison Beats here on KSJB and KSJBAM.com. And we are talking to the voice of the Bison himself. It's Jeff Culhane. Once again, Jeff, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here again.
Always good. Thanks for having me on here on Wednesday.
Yeah, no problem. Well, the Bison, they only have one loss on the season, and they're taking on the Indiana State upcoming here in the Fargo Dome. I guess to start things off, how is their play style? How is Indiana State's play style for this weekend?
Well, Indiana State is a team that offensively can do a little bit of both. They can run the football with their running back, Roland Genesee. He's a guy that's put up some decent numbers for them here this season. I like their quarterback, Isaac Harker, a guy that did not start for them last year. That was Matt Adam, who we saw last year in Terre Haute. But Adam, last May, it was announced, would have to sit out the entire season to concentrate on academics. So Isaac Harker took over, and he's had a pretty good year. 19 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, has thrown the ball pretty well. He can move around the pocket a little bit, so he uses his legs and does a nice job there. And then he has a big target in Robert Tanyan Jr., who's a big 6'5" wide receiver, the all-time leading touchdown receptions individual in Indiana State football history. So offensively, they can score a little bit. Defensively, they're a unique look. They will bring pressure and bring blitzes from a lot of different areas on the field. They're coming off their worst game of the year. They played their final home game last weekend versus Northern Iowa and really didn't show up. They got trounced by UNI 39-6. So it'll be interesting to see what Mike Stanford's team has left in the tank, because this is their last regular season game and they're not going to the playoffs.
And now, like you said, you guys have 2 games left, but some teams have byes on that last week, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that is correct. There are a couple of teams around the country that have byes, or this is their final game. And then the Bison, of course, play 2 games remaining. Illinois State's one of those teams. It's a big final regular season game for the Redbirds.
All right, so what's Chris Kleiman doing, like I guess usual, to get them prepared for this game? Because, they can't take anybody for granted as they're getting this close to the playoffs and clinching home field advantage.
Yeah, no, you said it, Kyle. They can't do that. And I think they use their same focus, win the day, win the week, go 1-0 this particular week. And it's a senior week as well. It's the final regular season home game for the Bison seniors, guys like Chase Morlock and Brad Ambrosius, amongst others, MJ Stump, Pierre G. Tucker, the 3 guys along the offensive line, Big Zach Johnson, Jack Plankers, Landon Leckler, just to name a few of the individuals that are playing their final regular season game. Of course, we're not anticipating seeing those guys for the final time here in this venue. But it's the same mindset, Kyle. They go about it the same way each and every week, and I think that's what makes this program so good and as successful as they have been during this championship run.
And, they have this last home game, at least in the regular season at this point, and then they travel to South Dakota next weekend. That's one of the upsets that happened last year, so I think the Bison, they're probably ready to get that game back from last year, aren't they?
I would assume, I would assume so. There definitely would be that payback factor in some respects. The Bison will remember how that game went down last year up here in Fargo, and South Dakota's a team that has lost a couple of games in a row now. They were on the cusp of the postseason. They've got a big game this weekend at South Dakota State. So that game next weekend is just as important as the rest of them for NDSU with their goals this season.
All right, and before we get going here, I want to actually talk about a little bit about the Bison basketball team. How are the both men's and women's doing here? Like a quick recap with their upcoming games and everything there, Jeff.
Well, both teams open up the regular season this upcoming weekend. The men open up Friday versus Arkansas State, and David Richmond's got a pretty good club this year, led by Paul Miller and Dexter Werner and Kai Cabellas. Those guys have had some success. They've played in NCAA tournaments, and I think they're poised to be a team that makes a run to the big dance once again here this season in a very good Summit League. And on the women's side, Maren Walseth is in year number 3. She's got a great crop of young players that she has recruited and brought into the program, really trying to build the program here with the North Dakota State women. They play on Saturday night at 7 o'clock in Fargo at the new Shields Center against Dickinson State to open up the regular season. So both the men and the women have some momentum right now, and looking forward to hoop season beginning.
Oh, yes, and that's going to start here before you know it, actually. But we have a football game coming up on Saturday, as usual. When is the pregame and the kickoff right here on KSJB?
Yeah, pregame starts at 2 o'clock and kickoff at just after 2:30 on KSJB.
All right.
Fun day.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Hey, thank you very much again, Jeff, and have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next week, all right?
All right, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. See you later.
See ya.
That was once again Jeff Culhane, the voice of the Bison for today on your Bison Beat. Wednesdays, 2:30 to 2:45 right here on KSJB and KSJBAM.com.